Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will shift the way you see everything you've been fighting. There is a reason your battles have intensified. There is a reason the pressure feels heavier than what you believe you can carry. There is a reason it seems like life has been tightening around you, closing in, testing the very edges of your endurance. And it's not because you're failing. It's not because you're losing. It's not because you've done anything wrong. It's because you are closer to your breakthrough than you realize. Yes, closer than your battles suggest. There is a moment in every spiritual journey where the battlefield grows the loudest right before the victory arrives. The storm becomes its most violent right before it breaks. The night feels its darkest right before the first sign of dawn. And without even knowing it, you have stepped into that sacred moment, the threshold where everything is about to shift. But the pressure is trying to convince you it never will. You can feel it, can't you? That strange mixture of exhaustion and expectation. That unexplainable heaviness that sits on your chest, but somehow underneath it, a quiet whisper telling you, don't give up now. That tension between wanting to collapse and yet feeling something inside you rising. Something stubborn, something holy, something unbreakable. It's not your imagination. It's not wishful thinking. It's the sign of someone standing at the edge of divine release. You've been sensing that something is shifting, but you can't describe it. You've been feeling that something is coming, but you don't know when. You've been noticing unusual resistance, but you don't understand why. This message is the answer to all of that. Because the truth is this: the intensity of your battles is not evidence of abandonment. It is evidence of proximity. Proximity to breakthrough. Proximity to elevation. Proximity to the very thing you have been praying for, fighting for, hoping for, and even doubting you would ever see. And the reason your battles have grown stronger is because what God is about to release in your life is greater than anything you have carried before. I'm going to show you 8 prophetic signs, clear, unmistakable, spiritually revealing signs, that your breakthrough is far closer than your battles are trying to make you believe. But before we unveil them, let this opening truth settle deeply into your spirit. The pressure you feel right now is not the sign of an ending. It is the sign of a birth. And what is being born in your life is bigger than the battle that has been trying to stop it. And as that truth settles into you, let me take you deeper into the heart of what's really happening. Because this moment you're standing in is not random. It is not accidental. It is not just a phase or a feeling. There is a divine intentionality behind every pressure point, every emotional weight, every spiritual battle that has been swirling around you. And whether you've realized it or not, heaven has been closer to your situation than you've allowed yourself to believe. There are times when God speaks loudly, and then there are times when He speaks through alignment, through interruption, through discomfort, through the shifting of the atmosphere around your life. Right now, God is speaking through the tightening, through the resistance, through the rapid acceleration of challenges that seem to have come out of nowhere. Not to break you, but to announce something, to announce that He is moving. You see, God rarely reveals breakthrough with fanfare. He reveals it with pressure. He rarely announces new seasons with comfort. He announces them with disruption. He rarely reveals transformation in moments of ease. He reveals it when the old version of you can no longer survive the environment you've outgrown. And right now, every battle you've been facing has been heaven's way of signaling that a transition is underway. Feel that for a moment. A transition. Not a collapse, not a loss, not a failure. A divine transition initiated by God Himself. If you pay close attention to your spirit, you may notice something remarkable even in your exhaustion, even in your weariness. There is a strange clarity forming within you. A deeper hunger. A sharper discernment. a quiet confidence you can't explain. These are not the signs of someone breaking. These are the early tremors of someone being positioned. And God wants you to know this. You have not been battling alone. You have not been misunderstood or overlooked by heaven. Your prayers have not fallen into silence. Your tears have not been wasted. Your endurance has not been ignored. In fact, God has been watching your perseverance in places where nobody else even saw the fight. He has been attentive to every moment you kept going when quitting felt easier. He has been strengthening you in the invisible, fortifying you in the quiet, shaping you in ways you didn't even realize were shaping you. Because He has been preparing you for what's coming. And that breakthrough, your breakthrough, is not something small or symbolic. It is something that requires a level of spiritual maturity, resilience, and clarity that you could only gain by enduring what you've just walked through. That's why He allowed the pressure to increase. That's why He allowed certain battles to linger. That's why He allowed certain things to stretch you beyond what felt fair or comfortable. Not because you were forgotten, but because you were chosen for something weighty, something purposeful, something that will become a defining moment in your journey. So hear this with reverence. This message is not merely an encouragement. It is a divine unveiling, a revelation God has placed in your path because you are ready to receive it, ready to recognize the signs, ready to understand the spiritual significance behind your battles, ready to see that what looked like opposition was actually orchestration. And in a moment, we will step into that unveiling. The clarity, the insight, the prophetic truth behind why your battles look so intense and what they reveal about the breakthrough already forming around you. But before we step forward, hold on to this certainty. God is not preparing your battle. He is preparing your victory. And now that your spirit is aligned with what God has been orchestrating behind the scenes, it's time to uncover the deeper truth, the prophetic truth about why your battles have intensified and why everything in your life seems to be stretching, shaking, or shifting all at once. Because the breakthrough that is drawing near is not subtle. It is not ordinary. It is not the kind of blessing that whispers into your life quietly. No, what is coming carries too much weight, too much purpose, too much destiny attached to it. And anything heaven sends with that kind of significance will always cause the atmosphere around you to react. Let me tell you something that many people never understand. The spiritual realm responds to movement long before the natural realm does. That means breakthrough begins stirring in the unseen, long before it becomes visible in your reality. And when something begins shifting spiritually, resistance often shows up physically, emotionally, relationally, or mentally. This is what's been happening to you. Your battles have not increased because you're on the wrong path. They have increased because the right path is finally opening. The pressure isn't a sign of distance. It's a sign of nearness. The spiritual warfare isn't a sign of failure. It's a sign of impending fulfillment. You are not under attack because you are weak. You are under attack because what God has ordained for you is so powerful, so significant, so transformative that every opposing force recognizes your potential even before you do. And that right there is part of the prophecy. Your breakthrough has already been released in the Spirit. And the battles you're facing are the echoes of that release. Think of it this way: when a seed breaks open, underground the soil shifts, cracks, and stretches. The pressure increases. But that pressure isn't a sign that the seed is dying. It's a sign that life is emerging. That's you. You have been buried in seasons you didn't understand. Seasons that felt dark, isolated, or silent. But something has been breaking open beneath the surface of your life, and now the pressure around you is responding to the growth within you. Your breakthrough is not waiting on permission from the world around you. It is responding to the command of heaven. And God is saying this to you even now. I am bringing you into a moment where what resisted you will no longer have authority over you. What intimidated you will lose its power. What delayed you will lose its grip. What drained you will lose its access. The battle you face is the final tightening before release. You see, breakthroughs often arrive disguised as breakdowns. Elevation often shows up disguised as endings. Divine clarity often appears through situations that seem confusing or chaotic. And transformation frequently begins in moments that feel like loss rather than gain. The reason this happens is simple. God is not just changing your circumstances, He is changing you. Because the person you were months ago cannot carry what is coming. The patterns you used to rely on cannot sustain the season ahead. The relationships that fell away could not travel into your next dimension. The environments that rejected you were never meant to witness your fulfillment. Everything that left your life made space for something that matches the weight of your calling. The prophecy over your life is not about recovering what was lost. It is about receiving what is aligned. And make no mistake, the alignment is happening right now. That's why doors seem to close unpredictably, because the wrong opportunities cannot attach themselves to a God-ordained destiny. That's why certain people suddenly shift, pull away, or reveal their true intentions, because breakthrough requires spiritual clarity, not emotional confusion. That's why you feel stretched, because this breakthrough requires a version of you that is expanded, strengthened, refined, and spiritually awake. But the most important part of this prophecy is this. Your breakthrough is closer. Closer than the battle suggests. Closer than the fear implies. Closer than the silence indicates. Closer than the delays pretend. And as we move into the next section, we're going to go deeper into the spiritual meaning behind all of this. Why the battle intensified, why the pressure arrived when it did, and why heaven is allowing you to experience such a profound inner shifting. Because once you understand the meaning, you will no longer fear the battle. You will recognize it as confirmation. And now that the prophetic unveiling has begun to settle into your spirit, let's go deeper beyond the emotions, beyond the circumstances, beyond the visible battles, into the spiritual architecture beneath it all. Because everything you have been facing carries meaning. Nothing has been wasted. Nothing has been random. Every pressure point, every closed door, every unexpected challenge has been part of a larger spiritual pattern. A pattern that reveals why your breakthrough is so near. One of the greatest misunderstandings people have is assuming that breakthrough begins when the blessing arrives. But in reality, breakthrough begins when God disrupts the patterns that no longer serve your destiny. This disruption is uncomfortable, often painful, and rarely recognizable while you're in it. But spiritually, it mirrors a biblical truth that repeats throughout Scripture. Before God elevates, He shakes. Before God reveals, He removes. Before God releases, He resets. Think of Joseph, born with a dream, rejected by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, forgotten in prison. Every battle he faced grew more intense. But each battle was not a sign of God abandoning him. It was evidence that he was being positioned. When the pressure peaked, the breakthrough appeared in a single moment, one divine appointment that changed everything. The same pattern followed David. Before he became king, the battles escalated. Before the crown rested on his head, the warfare multiplied. His struggle wasn't a sign he was far from his destiny. It was a sign he was inches from stepping into it. And then there's Moses. Before the Red Sea parted, the enemy pressed him to the water's edge. Before the miracle, the pressure intensified. Why? Because pressure is the final test before breakthrough becomes visible. You are living in that same biblical pattern. Your story mirrors the same spiritual laws. Here's what those laws tell us. 1. Battles intensify when heaven is shifting your assignment. A shift in the spirit realm often creates turbulence in the natural realm. 2. Pressure reveals alignment. Wherever God is about to open a door, the enemy applies resistance, not to stop you, but to distract you. 3. Transition requires separation. Breakthrough often demands that God pulls you away from people, environments, or mindsets that cannot sustain the next version of you. 4. Spiritual elevation requires spiritual stretching. Before God trusts you with greater influence, responsibility, or blessing, He enlarges your capacity through seasons that test your endurance and faith. But there is a deeper meaning still. Not just what God is doing around you, but what He is doing within you. Your battle has been forging something holy inside you. A new strength, a deeper trust, a sharper discernment, a refined identity. You are no longer who you once were. The pressure has carved away old doubts. The tears have washed away old fears. The disappointments have removed old illusions. The challenges have awakened parts of you that were dormant. This is why the battle feels heavier, because you are carrying more spiritually than ever before. Because you have grown, because you have matured in ways you didn't even notice, because your spirit is standing taller than your circumstances. And this growth, this internal transformation, is exactly why your breakthrough is so close. Breakthrough doesn't just land on your life. Breakthrough responds to who you become. You are becoming the version of yourself that is capable of receiving what you prayed for. And now that you understand the spiritual meaning beneath the pressure, we can begin to unveil the 8 signs, the clear prophetic indicators that prove your breakthrough is closer than your battles suggest. These signs aren't generic. They are deeply personal, emotionally revealing, spiritually confirming. Signs that speak directly to your journey. And when you hear them, something inside you will say, "This is happening to me right now." Now that your spirit is aligned with the deeper meaning behind the battles, let's move into the part your heart has been waiting for, the confirmation. Because God has not left you guessing. Heaven has been sending signals, whispers, patterns, and spiritual markers to show you that you are closer to breakthrough than your circumstances appear. And as you hear these 8 signs, you will recognize yourself in them. Not because they are general, but because they match the exact terrain of the season you've been walking through. Sign 1. The resistance around you has intensified. Suddenly, this is not the slow, steady resistance you've been used to. This is sudden, sharp, unexpected pressure that seems to come from multiple directions at once. Things that were once easy now feel strangely difficult. Relationships feel tense. Plans stall, emotions fluctuate. This sudden rise in resistance is not a sign of distance from breakthrough. It is a sign you are pressing against a spiritual threshold. The closer you move toward the opening, the more the enemy tries to distract, drain, or discourage you. Sign 2. You feel a deep spiritual fatigue, yet something in you refuses to quit. It's that paradoxical exhaustion. Your body and mind feel tired, but your spirit is strangely awake. Something in you will not let you give up even on the days you feel done. That inner resilience is breakthrough energy. It's the strength God gives when you are minutes from stepping into something new. Sign 3. Old patterns are breaking even. Without your intention, recently you've noticed habits falling away, thought patterns changing, priorities shifting. You're seeing clearly what drains you, what deceives you, and what no longer aligns with your growth. This breaking of old cycles is divine preparation. Before God gives new ground, He breaks old chains. Sign 4. People are revealing their true intentions. You've been seeing unexpected shifts in relationships, some people pulling away, some showing jealousy, some unexpectedly supporting you, others suddenly acting different. This exposure isn't a coincidence. Before breakthrough, God removes access from those who cannot honor your next season. Their behavior is not rejection, it is revelation. Sign 5. You've lost interest in things that once brought comfort. This sign is subtle but profound. The activities, routines, and escapes that used to soothe you no longer satisfy. You feel a stirring for something deeper, more purposeful. This is because your spirit is outgrowing the environment of your previous season. Breakthrough requires expansion, and God is enlarging your capacity. Sign 6. Unexpected disruptions have entered your life. Plans changing, doors closing, opportunities falling through, timelines shifting. At first it felt like chaos, but now you're noticing something else. Every disruption has redirected you towards something more aligned. That's not coincidence. That's divine rerouting. God is removing what would have become a burden in the next chapter. Sign 7. Your discernment has sharpened dramatically. Lately, you've been sensing things before they happen. You're reading people more clearly. You're noticing spiritual patterns more easily. You feel warnings in your spirit, peace in your spirit, discomfort in your spirit, more strongly than ever before. Sharpened discernment is a sign that elevation is near. God increases perception when new responsibility is coming. Sign 8. You feel a strange, unexplainable expectation. Even in the middle of the battle. Despite your challenges, despite your exhaustion, despite the storm around you, something deep inside you knows you are on the edge of something big. You may not have words for it, but the feeling is undeniable. That expectation is spiritual. It is heaven's way of signaling that breakthrough is not ahead of you. It is already unfolding around you. These 8 signs are not random symptoms of a difficult season. They are prophetic markers. And if even one of them resonates with you, let alone several, you are not just near breakthrough, you are brushing against the edge of it. You are standing in the doorway. But before breakthrough appears something else, often rises hidden challenges, the kind that make you question everything. And those challenges must be understood, because they are part of your preparation, not your punishment. And as those signs begin to resonate in your spirit, there is something important you must understand. Breakthrough never comes without hidden challenges. Not the obvious battles you can point to, but the quiet ones, the ones that rise inside you when no one else is watching. These challenges are not evidence that you are failing. They are evidence that God is preparing you for the weight of what's coming. Because before breakthrough manifests externally, it confronts you internally. One of the first hidden challenges you may be facing is emotional turbulence. Your feelings have been unpredictable. One moment you're hopeful, the next you're doubting everything. You feel overwhelmed by small things. Your patience feels stretched thin. Things that shouldn't bother you suddenly feel amplified. This isn't emotional instability, it's emotional detox. Breakthrough requires clarity, and God is purging emotional clutter that would cloud your next season. Another challenge is mental resistance, those intrusive thoughts that whisper, "What if nothing changes?" Or, "What if you're wasting your time?" You've been fighting internal narratives that don't match what your spirit knows. That's because your mind is wrestling with patterns God is breaking. You're not losing faith. You're shedding old fears. A third challenge is spiritual restlessness. You felt disconnected at times, like prayer is harder, like focus is slipping, like your spirit is both hungry and weary at the same time. That restlessness is a sign that God is drawing you out of familiar spiritual rhythms because He is guiding you into deeper ones. You are transitioning into a higher dimension of spiritual awareness. Then there is the challenge of silence. When God feels quiet, you pray, but you don't hear. You seek, but you don't sense. That silence is not punishment, it's calibration. God quiets the noise around you so you can learn to hear Him in new ways. Breakthrough seasons often come with divine silence because God is shifting from speaking to shaping. There is also the challenge of isolation. People you once leaned on seem distant. You feel misunderstood, unseen, or emotionally separated from others. You're not being abandoned, you're being repositioned. God isolates before He elevates because He needs your attention without interference. He needs your spirit to tune into His voice, not the voices of those who cannot comprehend your next season. Another challenge is the weight of waiting, the tension of knowing something is coming, but not knowing when. Breakthrough rarely rushes, it ripens. And waiting stretches your faith to the size of the blessing you're about to receive. But perhaps the hardest hidden challenge is the temptation to give up. Not because you're weak, but because you're tired. Deeply tired. And yet even in your exhaustion, something in you refuses to surrender. That resistance inside you is divine strength. It is God carrying you when your own strength is drained. All these hidden battles have a purpose. They refine your spirit. They strengthen your character. They sharpen your discernment. They prepare your heart for what your hands are about to hold. Breakthrough doesn't require perfection. It requires readiness. And God is using every hidden challenge to make you ready, now that you understand the internal shaping that has been happening. The next step is crucial, hearing the divine instructions that will guide you through the final stretch into the manifestation of your breakthrough. Now that the hidden challenges have been brought into the light, it's time to move into the part of this message that carries divine weight, the instructions. Because breakthrough is not something you stumble into randomly. It is something you step into intentionally. And in this sacred moment of transition, God is whispering direction to guide your next steps. These instructions are not complicated, but they are spiritual tools, keys that unlock clarity, strength, and alignment. Listen closely because each one has been shaped specifically for the season you are in. Instruction 1. Guard your atmosphere. In this final stretch, your environment matters more than ever. Protect your peace. Protect your focus. Protect your energy. Not everyone should have access to you right now. Not every conversation deserves your attention. Not every invitation is aligned with your spirit. You are in a season of spiritual sensitivity. Keep your atmosphere clean. Instruction 2. Choose stillness over striving. You cannot force breakthrough. You cannot manipulate timing. You cannot rush what God is orchestrating. Instead, choose stillness. Create space for God to speak. Silence the noise. Withdraw when necessary. Stillness is not inactivity, it is spiritual alignment. When you stop striving, you become available for divine guidance. Instruction 3. Strengthen your spiritual foundation. Return to the practices that anchor your soul. Prayer, reflection, listening. Scripture worship. Not out of ritual, but out of connection. Your spirit needs nourishment. Your discernment needs sharpening. Your faith needs reinforcement. You don't need more effort. You need deeper alignment. Instruction 4. Release what no longer fits. Breakthrough requires space emotionally, mentally, spiritually, even relationally. If something has felt heavy, forced, or draining, it may be because it no longer belongs in your next chapter. Let go of expectations that limit you. Let go of people who hinder you. Let go of identities that no longer reflect who you are becoming. Release is not loss, it is preparation. Instruction 5. Speak what you expect, not what you fear. Your words carry power. In seasons of transition, the tongue becomes a steering wheel. Speak life over your future. Speak hope over your situation. Speak clarity over your confusion. Speak strength over your weakness. Your breakthrough needs agreement, not anxiety. Instruction 6. Move when God says move. There will be moments when God prompts you, nudges your heart, opens a door, or stirs your spirit. Do not hesitate. Obedience in this season is acceleration. Delayed obedience can create unnecessary battles. When the moment comes, step forward boldly, even if your knees are shaking. Instruction 7. Prepare as if the breakthrough is already unfolding. This is one of the most powerful instructions. Preparation is a declaration of faith. Start organizing your life for what you've been praying for. Create systems. Make room. Adjust your mindset. Expect God to move and prepare for His movement. These instructions are not random guidelines. They are spiritual strategy. They position your heart. They align your steps. They activate the atmosphere around your breakthrough. Because God is not just bringing something to you, He is bringing something through you. And as you follow these instructions, a shift begins to happen. The fear you once felt loses its grip. The confusion begins to clear. The heaviness starts to lift. You begin to sense something holy taking shape around you. But before you step fully into the revelation of what's coming, God wants to surround you with reassurance, His protection, His covering, His presence in the midst of your battles. And as those divine instructions settle into your spirit, there is something God wants to reassure you of, something that reaches deeper than guidance, deeper than strategy, deeper than understanding. Because even with clarity, even with direction, there is still a part of you that longs to feel safe in the middle of everything, shifting around you. And God, in His tenderness, is meeting that longing right now. Hear this: you are protected. Not lightly, not partially, not occasionally. You are covered in a way that only someone marked with purpose can ever be covered. You have been walking through battles that should have broken you, yet you are still standing. Not because you were strong enough, but because God has been shielding you in ways you didn't always recognize. You have been carried when you thought you were simply surviving. You have been guarded when you thought you were merely enduring. Situations that could have crushed your spirit were softened because His hand was over you. There were moments you didn't see danger, but danger saw you and could not touch you. There were people who intended harm, but their plans dissolved before they reached you. There were setbacks that formed, but never landed. There were spiritual attacks that rose, but suddenly lost their power. This is not coincidence. This is covenant. You are not going through these battles unprotected. You are moving through them with a covering that cannot be penetrated. And even when the battle feels overwhelming, it does not mean the protection has been removed. Feelings do not define God's presence. His promise does. And His promise is this: no weapon formed against you will prosper. It doesn't say weapons won't form. It doesn't say battles won't appear. It says they will not win. God's protection is not the absence of warfare. It is the guarantee of victory. Even now, as you move through this threshold season, angels are assigned to you. Your steps are being ordered. Your path is being guided. Your spirit is being fortified. You are surrounded on all sides by a presence that cannot be shaken. The reason the battle feels so intense is because your calling is intense. The reason the pressure feels so heavy is because your destiny is heavy. And the reason you haven't collapsed is because God's hand has been holding you upright. Let this assurance settle deeply into you. You are not failing. You are not falling apart. You are not losing control. You are being carried. You are being guarded. You are being prepared. And all of this protection has one purpose: to bring you into the moment where your breakthrough becomes visible. Which brings us now into the next revelation. The transformation and fulfillment that unfolds when everything God has been preparing you for finally comes to pass. And as that assurance settles in you, deep, steady grounding, you, like roots strengthened after a storm, it becomes clear that everything you've walked through has been leading you toward one sacred outcome: transformation. Breakthrough is not just about circumstances shifting. It is about you shifting. It is about stepping into a version of yourself that could only emerge through the fire you endured, the pressure you carried, and the faith you held on to, even when it trembled. Because when breakthrough finally manifests, something profound happens inside you, long before it happens around you. Old fears lose their grip. Old identities fall away. Old limitations crumble. You begin to see yourself not through the lens of survival, but through the lens of destiny. You begin to recognize the strength you developed in your lonely seasons. You begin to understand the wisdom born from your disappointments. You begin to appreciate the spiritual depth carved into you through your battles. This is the transformation, the quiet, radiant becoming that occurs when God brings you to the moment of fulfillment. And when the breakthrough arrives, it rarely comes the way you expect. It comes better, greater, fuller, and more aligned with the truth of who you have become. Suddenly, doors that were sealed tight swing open with ease. Opportunities that felt impossible unfold with clarity. Relationships shift into alignment. Finances begin to stabilize. Creative flow returns. Purpose sharpens. Your spirit feels lighter, clearer, steadier. It's as if the weight of a long season breaks off in an instant, and for the first time in a while, you can breathe without strain. But the outward signs are only the beginning. The real fulfillment is internal. You wake up with a sense of peace you haven't felt in years. Your mind stops replaying old wounds. Your heart no longer feels pulled in conflicting directions. You sense God speaking to you with new clarity. Your steps feel guided, purposeful, aligned. The very atmosphere of your life becomes lighter, like a long winter finally thawing under the warmth of a long-awaited spring. This is what breakthrough looks like. When God orchestrates it, it doesn't just change your circumstances, it changes your posture, your confidence, your identity, your future. You stop living in reaction and begin living in intention. You stop surviving and begin building. You stop doubting and begin expecting. And most of all, you begin to understand why the battle was so fierce. Because the version of you standing on the other side of breakthrough is stronger than the version of you who entered the battle. More resilient, more discerning, more spiritually awake. When fulfillment arrives, it becomes clear. The struggle was not a detour, it was the doorway. The battle was not punishment, it was preparation. The pressure was not a sign of defeat, it was a sign of birth. You step into a moment that feels both surreal and completely natural, as if your spirit has known all along that you were destined to reach this place. And now, with your transformation taking shape and your breakthrough drawing breath, there is one final piece to speak a closing affirmation and blessing to seal everything God is awakening in you. And now, as this message settles into the deepest part of your spirit, I want to speak a blessing over you, a prophetic seal over everything God has been revealing, shaping, and preparing within you. Because you are not leaving this moment the same. Something in you has shifted. Something in you has awakened. Something in you is rising with quiet strength and holy confidence. So hear these words, not as inspiration, but as identity. You are stepping into clarity. You are stepping into alignment. You are stepping into strength that has been forged in fire. You are stepping into breakthrough that has already begun in the unseen. You are stepping into a chapter where what once resisted you will now release you. You are stepping into the version of yourself God always knew you were becoming. May every heaviness lift from your spirit. May every lingering doubt dissolve in the light of truth. May every fear lose its voice in the presence of God's promise. May you walk boldly, confidently, purposefully into the fulfillment of what heaven has prepared. You are protected. You are chosen. You are growing into your calling. You are closer to breakthrough than your battles have led you to believe. And as you move forward from this moment, may your steps be steady, your heart be strengthened, your discernment be sharp, and your faith be unshakable. Your story is not ending, it is unfolding. Your battle is not defeating you, it is revealing you. Your breakthrough is not distant. It is already approaching with divine precision. You are ready. You are prepared. You are aligned for what God is about to release. And now as we close, I invite you to take a step of agreement. If this message spoke to you, if it confirmed something deep inside you, if it felt like it was written for your season, leave a comment below, share what resonated, and subscribe so you never miss another prophetic word crafted for your journey. Your breakthrough is closer than you think, and heaven is already moving on your behalf.